podcast. I'm Julia, and this is
Michelle,
and we are your new loudmouth, change-making, do-gooder, best friends here to embolden you to take more action, risk, and heart towards creating a more just and equitable and brave world. If you're wanting to have more focus and direction towards what really matters to you, then today's episode is for you. We are going to be talking about why defining your purpose serves you and how to actually define your purpose in business, personal life, and helping you contribute to the greater good. So thank you for joining us today. We are very excited to have you. This is our first ever podcast. This is history. Yes, we're so excited. So many things have gone into making this happen. It's been a long journey. And I don't know, this is really special, and we really appreciate everyone who is tuning in today. And it's not going to be perfect, right? But we're doing it anyways. Michelle, so I'm just gonna jump into it. So to kind of get started off, trying to get into this mindset, dive a little bit deeper into finding our purpose and why it serves us. I wanted to ask Michelle a question and get this started. So, Michelle, how long have we been friends? Trying to start with an easy one.
It is an easy one, but it does date us. We've been friends since we were 8 years old, which is about 30 years. And we grew up across the street from each other in a tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, Utah. And yeah, we've been friends ever since. We've been through thick and thin, and we've talked multiple times about doing a business together. And for some reason, the stars aligned this time, and we were able to launch Among Lionhearts. So we're excited to share that with everyone.
Yes, we are very excited, and I couldn't ask for a better business partner. So Michelle, how would you describe you and I as kids or teenagers, any of our adolescents, as popular?
No, I would not use popular to describe us. There are many good adjectives, but popular is not one of them.
How would you describe
quirky us? Comes to mind.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. What else you got?
Full of joy, unstoppable. We were a force of nature, and we were very animated.
Yes, that's good. That's a really good one.
Yes.
So I agree with all of those things. I think mostly Michelle and I we were just really grateful to spend any time together, honestly. And we didn't matter what was happening in our life. We just tried to make the most of what was happening at the time. Just being together and letting some of our troubles kind of not be present. And that was really, really nice. So since we're talking about purpose today on our very first podcast, I was looking back as us as young girls and stuff, and I think about those two girls, and I imagine them, and I wonder what they thought their purpose was going to be, and what we valued as little girls, and has that changed much? What do you think? If you had to describe maybe what your values were back then as a kid, what would you say those main ones were?
Conquering the world certainly comes to mind. We were always we were. Ooh, I don't know.
I know we like to go deep fast.
I know. Are we supposed to talk about the values that we dug into and discovered, or because those have always been there, but
yeah, it's like those values change and stuff. And I wanted to like hear like, I know that we grew up in a hard situation and stuff. And I know that like as we're older, our circumstances have changed and stuff. But like I think if I had to say like what my value when I was younger, um, it was to find like a safe place. I think like a lot of things that I did was just trying to carve out safe places for myself,
Yeah.
safe places where I could feel like calm. And those came in like different forms. But if I had to say like that was like my main thing, I was just seeking. Everything felt so like really out of control. And some of those calm places came in the form of like me running off back behind my house. There's those big trees clear across the field,
Yep.
and we buried a capsule out there once. I don't know if you remember that and stuff, but there's a time capsule out there. One day we'll have to dig that
I
up.
do remember doing that, but yeah, I have no idea where it is.
I think
and I'd
I
be
think
terrified to find out what we put in it.
I think it's not going to be as impressive as we like think it is. I think it was like nail
I'm
polish.
sure we were like, this is going to be so awesome when we dig it back up.
Yes.
Because you're just so aware of what you're gonna think is awesome as a 40-year-old when you're 12.
No, right. So definitely like for me, it was finding calm and finding little places where I could get that. And sometimes that was like running out there. Sometimes it was, focusing on a project, a craft project or a painting thing. And honestly, like I think that's why I was so drawn to you, like at such a young age and stuff, because like we were weird and we were doing weird things and we were living through a lot of traumatic stuff. But like I always felt like um there was a calm that came to being weird with someone else that was weird,
Acceptance was the word that kept coming to
yeah.
mind,
Yeah. But for me, that was like a sense of calm. Like there was always like I remember my youth, and it feels like a pit in my stomach. Like just like that was never going away. Like I was never good enough. I was never going to amount to much, and there was just so much I had to overcome, and I could feel it at a very young age. And it was nice to just be weird with someone. And it was nice just to like. It was funny because we were going through so much, but we never really talked about it till we were older, like much older. But we were like in the thick of it, both having so much trauma and experiencing that like side by side. But when we were together, we tried to make it just fun and weird, and
I would almost say that we gave each other the opportunity to have a childhood, because there were so many things happening in our lives that really forced us to grow up, to deal with mature things that you wouldn't have to deal with at such a young age. And we gave each other the space to have a childhood.
Yeah. And I think also like Michelle and I are really, really fortunate that we had each other at such a young age, and we were both so ambitious, and out of our ignorance, we were super ambitious. And like I remember Michelle always talking about being an astronaut one day or building rockets or something like that. And my goal was just to be rich, like whatever that path took, like I will be rich, and then I will do lots of things and have lots of crafts, and but we wanted these like really big things, and we would have people often look at us, and I would see when Michelle spoke, we had teachers that would look at her, and I could see that they were like, do they not know? Do they
the
not
answer
know?
is no, we didn't. And that's a good thing.
We lived in a really small town, and the teachers knew what kind of families we came from, that we came from very broken homes, and we came from very like poor families that had a lot of trauma going on. and we were the weird girls. We were the girls that like didn't quite fit in. So we gathered all the other weirdos. And, and so when teachers would ask us, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, and we would tell them, and there are these, and we would have these like big lofty goals, they would look at us like, sure, should we tell them? Like, I don't know. Should we tell them? Like,
no, definitely don't tell them.
Yeah. And thank goodness, nobody really told us. So, I think that we had it hard enough as it was, and we were, hard enough critics on ourselves that it's good that we had a lot of people along the way who also either lied to us and told us you're going to be awesome. I appreciate lying can be very, useful.
Strategic.
Strategic. Kindness and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really, really grateful for that, because we're here today. We're here who are friends 30 years later and creating businesses together, and I'm feeling very humble today that I'm here 30 years later with my best friend from the time I was a little girl, and talking about purpose. So let's get into this a little bit more. So if we had to say, like, why does defining your purpose serve you? Why is that so important that we need to define our purpose? What do you think, Michelle?
Well, I think that in any undertaking, any endeavor that you have in life, being able to clarify and know your purpose, it gives you the ability to chart a path for yourself. And especially when we are doing really challenging things and things that can feel like they have a lot of chaos involved, being able to return to that purpose and remember why am I here? Why am I challenging myself this way? Why am I participating in something that is so hard? If you take the time to establish that why and figure out what it is that's so important and why you chose to be there in the first place, I think that I know people in my life who have made conscious choices about joining a team or being in a situation, and then a few months go by, a year goes by, challenges arise, things get difficult, and you lose a little bit of that rosy patina of what you had in the beginning of this goal, and suddenly you feel like you didn't choose it. You feel like, why was he even doing this? Why did I even think that? And I know we all have a really large tendency to kind of be hard on ourselves about it. So we tend to tell ourselves that, we didn't see something coming, or we didn't keep ourselves safe or keep good boundaries. And oftentimes it's not even about that. It's about, you made a priority, you made a choice. And if you can remind yourself of that, when that path gets rocky, then you can usually bridge the gap between, the good times and the good times on the other side of those obstacles. So I feel like it's a really, really important activity. The importance of it really can't be understated. So taking the time to find your why, to communicate your why with your team, to make sure you know about their why, so that everybody can share in motivating each other, I feel like is a foundational activity.
Yeah, I really like that. I think I've heard in like several books that I've written and some of my favorite podcasts, them expressing that when we divide up our attention and our power to too many purposes, then nothing really has purpose. Like, you're not giving any of these things that really matter to you and that you're trying to get to, you're not giving them enough power. And how important it is for us to really narrow that purpose down so we can like fly and hit those goals that we really want, because we really only have so much energy, right? We really have only so many hours in the day. And we oftentimes things like balance, we got to balance everything. If we put if we have 10 marbles, that's, we just put them all in all these different cups and stuff like
10
that.
10 different bins.
Yeah. And honestly, you actually don't get very far that way. And who was it that said, I can't remember who said it, but someone was saying like, if everything matters, nothing matters.
Yeah.
And there's too many important things on this earth to care about. There's too many purposes. We're not meant to care about every single thing in this world. And I know that's hard to hear. It's hard for me to understand. It's something I have to tell myself all the time. Julia, you cannot solve all the problems. You cannot be a part of every single thing you want to be a part of as much as you want to. You have to narrow down what you're going to put your energy and your power into. So other things that is really important that like narrowing down your purpose does, that I've read from other blogs and other experts on the subject, is having clear direction, and having that foundation you can rely back on when you start getting wayward. And we talked about that a little bit. So many times, like as we're doing projects or we're hitting goals, all these other little mini goals come in to try to distract us, and we find ourselves doing all those other ones, and then we realize, oh no, like we've lost track, And when we remember our purpose, we get back on track. And then we have also kind of one that was kind of surprising for me to learn about is building trust. When we define our purpose, we actually build trust in so many ways. When we define our purpose and we live our purpose, we define trust in ourselves, by being more dependable and by having that foundation and redirecting ourselves back onto our goals. When we do that, we build evidence. We build evidence that we're going to hit our goals, because we know how to like stay on track because we've got this purpose that we've defined. And we build trust in other people too, which is kind of really cool. That I've learned is when people know that you're someone who knows their purpose and stays on track with that purpose, you can be the messiest person in the world, and be the most flawed person in the world. But if you know your purpose and you filter your life and your choices through that purpose, you're a lot more steady person, and people are a lot more attracted to your purpose.
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts on why it's really important to define your purpose?
No, I actually think that between what you and I have said, we covered it fairly well. I'm sure I will think of other things later.
Okay, so now we've defined why it's important, and now we're going to talk about how to actually do it, right? So it's like, it's always like one thing to point out like what is wrong, what you need to do, but like I always want to be told, how do you actually do it? I get really frustrated when people give me advice and
do
don't
the
tell
thing.
Me do it.
How?
Okay, that's nice and all, but how do you actually do it?
Yeah.
I have to say though, like Michelle and I, as we were building this business, we took some time one day as we kind of felt the stress kind of rising between the two of us, and we picked up one of our favorite books we're super into right now, and it's Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. Probably everybody's heard of it. She also has an amazing podcast. If you're not listening to Brene Brown, I don't know what you're doing.
If you haven't been exposed yet, she was a researcher, which kind of speaks to me because I'm a bit of a science nerd. So I really enjoy the scientific approach, but she's also talking about things that are very human. It's not this sterile clinical thing. She's talking about shame. She's talking about bravery. She's talking about how to become the person that you want. And I really don't, I think it can be good for anybody who takes the time. I know that the way that she speaks about things really speaks to me.
Yes, me too. And she's been actually really helpful in us building our business. And Michelle, she's actually dedicated like almost half her book to discovering your purpose and value and narrowing it down. So definitely check that out. And what I really love about this book is there's a section in it here where she lists a whole bunch of the values for you to go over if you want to do quizzes with yourself and kind of narrow down what yours is. I definitely recommend that. And Michelle and I sat down and we did that one afternoon, and we think we know each other pretty good,
Yeah.
like, so, we've known each other since we were basically babies. And so, but what's kind of interesting is like, as much as I know Michelle, like there are things I discovered about her and what like drives her. And we oftentimes like think it's the same thing because we see so much of each other and we're so influenced by each other, but we had very, very different values. And it turns out that they actually complement each other, which was kind of really neat to read about. One of my values is freedom. And I was kind of surprised that mine was freedom, but it kept jumping out at the page at me. And as I thought about me being that little girl who wanted that place of calm, for me, that calm was freeing. And I can see how, like, as a child, like how finding that peace was so much freedom for me, running out to the trees in the backyard and just having like an hour to myself. How much that would reshape my mindset even, and I'd be able to like go back and face some of the hard realities of my life, just being able to have those moments of freedom. And that was really neat to kind of discover. And Michelle, why don't you tell us about one of yours?
So the one that jumped off the page for me was courage. And for people who know me, that might not be a surprise. But I was a little surprised. And then as I looked at, the way that I made decisions, the way that I made the really big decisions in my life, it was really clear that I held courage in such a really high regard. There were times when I had to make big choices about scary things way before I was ready. And I always took the one that felt like harder, but I knew it was right. Like there was no question to me that it was the right thing to do. And I knew those choices were going to be harder for me. And it didn't even occur to me to shy away from it because I knew it would be hard. I remember in one particular case, having family members look at me and go, "Did you understand how hard this is going to be?" And I was like, I understand exactly how hard this is going to be. And that's part of why I chose it, was because I could take the easy way out, but that's not going to be right for me. And I know that I need to make the choice that is scary, and I need to make the choice that is hard, because that's what's going to lead me to ultimately the place that feels right for me. And that translates right into my second value, which is kindness. Because so much of those, choices were about, I could do the thing that protects me, but it wouldn't be the thing that is kind to the other people that are involved in the decision. And I don't think that it would necessarily be the thing that's kind to myself over the long term, because believing that you're not capable of stuff isn't really kind. And we both experienced a lot of people in our lives telling us that we weren't capable of doing things. Julia touched on that with teachers and other kids our age looking at us and going, do they know? And it was really about showing up for ourselves and having the kindness to keep our own dreams alive. And there were times that I made decisions because I didn't want to show my kids that it was okay to compromise with the things that they want to do in life. And so, yeah, my two values ended up being courage and kindness. And I felt like they just underlie every decision I've ever made in my life.
I really love that. So the experts, they say, how do you define your values? And how we do that is you make a list of values, you make a list of purposes, and you write as many out as possible. And then you filter through it with this question. And it's, does this make me, when I do this, when I emulate this value, does this make me the best version of myself that I want to be? Really look deep into yourself and think of the moments that you really liked yourself, that you really showed up in a way that was sustaining to you, that motivated you to do the next step. I know sometimes that can be the first tricky part, is like just even thinking of a time when you showed up for yourself in a way that you really wanted to. You know, like an example of that might be, when was a time where I showed up as the best version of the mom that I want to be? Not what my kids want me to be or what I think my kids want me to be, but like the best version that I would define as a mom. Or when was the time when I showed up as the best version of myself when I was kind to somebody, when I served somebody else? And I was the kind of person that I want to be to somebody else, when I showed up as the kind of friend I want to be to somebody else. And in business, that looks like, how did I show up at work for myself that felt like the most me and the best version of me that I defined for myself? What did that look like? What did that moment look like? And then start going through your values and looking at those words and being like, is this define the best version of me that I want to be? We have got to stop defining our best versions of ourselves from somebody else's point of view, or somebody else, or society's point of view of what they tell us is the best version of a mom or a woman or an entrepreneur, or as a friend or someone in the community. Like, we have to stop doing that. The only person's opinion and the only person that can define your best version of yourself is you. So start filtering through those questions and see how you do. See if you can make it a goal to get to 10, make it a goal to cut to 5. Be fierce about it, and cut it all the way down. Try to get to those 2. And then when you get those 2, live it, filter everything through it. So I don't know, like, Michelle, if you remember part of the book that like we kind of listened to with Brene Brown, but I love the part that she talked about that she noticed she feels really out of control and like really starts seeing more anger appearing in her life when she starts making decisions away from her core values. And I really felt that. I don't know, like, do you have experiences like that?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I've had to stay in jobs that didn't feel like they fit me entirely, didn't feel like the whole of who I was belonged where I was working. I've and in those moments, I look back on it and I go, why did I spend so much time there? I knew it was not a good fit after just a little bit. And then the answer is because I prioritized, taking care of my family. I spent a lot of time as a single mom, and I really didn't want my kids to have to live through some of the things that I had to live through in my childhood. So I prioritized my kids. But I definitely felt like conflicted inside because I didn't feel like it was the courageous thing to do, but it was the kind thing to do. So it's interesting how things like that you feel really conflicted internally because they force you to go away from some of those core values. You can stay there for a bit, but ultimately in my life, they do end up ending or changing, transitioning into something else. And I've been fortunate enough to be in a position where I could springboard off of the time that I spent trying to do the right thing as a parent, and propel myself into a place where I can live both of the values at the same time. It won't be any easier than any of those others. It will definitely be terrifying, but as I said before, I like the hard road. So
I think we're definitely at a point in our life where we are done living other people's expectations of who we are. We're so over it. We are too old for that.
Which is funny because we started there, and then it was like we had life kind of teach us like, no, bad, get back in the box.
Yeah.
And there was a whole period of both of our lives where we were like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I need to be a little less extra. Maybe I need to, be a little bit quieter. And it's funny because my favorite quote is the Marianne Williamson quote about our greatest fear being not the darkness inside us, but the light. And it talks about, keeping yourself small so that other people can be comfortable around you. And every year that I get a little bit older, I come back to being who you are, being able to live your values, being able to be that bright light who, yeah, it doesn't fit, but inspires other people. That go ahead.
I think I am definitely one of the luckiest girls in the world. I happen to have a best friend whose value is courage. And especially lately, Michelle here, I'm just extra grateful for you and your courage and the courage that you pour into me to help me be brave. And just so all of you know, like Michelle almost daily is telling me, like probably our whole lives, actually, if I really think about it. But I know she's been having to do it extra lately with us building our business. But she's always telling me like, Julia, you don't need to conform and stop trying to conform. The conformity is ruining you. Stop it. And then like it's so neat to be a part of a business where and get to have my best friend as my partner and the encouraging words that she tells me every day to live brave and to reach towards what brings me freedom in my life and to live as authentically as possible. Because every day that I lean into that, I feel like I'm breathing easier and easier every day. Yeah. And I am so excited for this path of learning to live more in our purpose and living this very narrowed valued centered life with you as we move on with our business. And I'm so excited for that because I feel so hopeful for that freedom that I have been hungry for my whole life, and I get to be just me, and that's enough. And it's enough to have a full, meaningful, beautiful life. And my business partner and best friend telling me that every single day. So like, y'all need to get a best friend like Michelle. Okay? But we're here. If you don't got one, we'll be your new best friends.
Absolutely.
All right. Any last thoughts any last things that like we should touch on about that leaning on your purpose? I do have one like with
absolutely.
Oh, you go first and I'll see if same as mine.
We need to come back around because we didn't hit your second value. And I think that that's a really important note to kind of to touch on. And I think it really beautifully kind of wraps up this whole talk we've been having.
Okay.
So tell us about your other value.
Okay. Now she's asking me the questions. All right. So my second value is actually inspiration. And if I'm not inspired, I don't want to be here. So like, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You guys are going to pick it up. I have ADHD pretty bad. It's on the spectrum. So it's pretty far on the spectrum. But there's some really cool things with that too. And part of that is that I want to be inspired all the time, whether it's like a sunset. I just like go outside and I'm on a sunflower and I'm just like, oh yes, inspire me. And I can just live in that moment until the sun goes down. And but if I'm not inspired, I'm not interested in being there. But very small things inspire me, so that's good. It doesn't take much to, make me excited about being present. But yeah, it does. It leads in everything. And as you can see, we're in my art studio. If you're on watching the YouTube video, if you're on podcast, I am filming in my art studio. And this was a really big dream of mine that I've had since I was a little girl, to create my own art studio. And art studios are just as cool as you think they are. If you're thinking about doing an art studio and you dream about it, let me just tell you, it is worth it. It is
Find a way to make it happen.
Yes, they totally work. I don't even know why I thought, like, once we built this art studio, I remember being in here on like day 3 in my art studio. And I was like, I'm getting so much done. I'm so inspired. I'm like, oh, wait, it's because it's an art studio and that's what they're made to do. So yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So build yourself an art studio if you want one, do it. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, Michelle, but that's what I got.
Absolutely. No, I think the reason I wanted to bring everybody back around to inspiration is because, we've talked about why it's important to find your value, and why establishing that serves you, and how to define that. But I feel like we need to touch just a little bit on among Lionhearts, and the reason that we started Among Lionhearts was because we decided we really we've always kind of been right fighters, do-gooders. We've been very empathic people for the majority of our lives, and we're always cheering on the underdog, which is not surprising because we were the square pegs for sure. And I think that when you are searching for your why, for your purpose, it's important to make sure that you're finding that why that does inspire you, that does help you get out of bed on the hard days. Because on the good days, it's really easy to roll out of bed and get in there. But what is going to help you? What is going to inspire you to jump out of bed on the hard days, and rush in when you've got deadlines, when you've got something going wrong before one of your events, or a donor that you need to help, or bring them back around to why they're in it too. And I think it's just really, really important to remind people that it's not just enough to find your why, but your why also needs to inspire you.
Yeah. So I absolutely agree with that. And I would have to say on that, like, under that inspiration and us leaning into our purpose, Michelle and I came up with, like, how can we live our most purpose-driven life? And And that's where we come up with Among Lionhearts. And Michelle and I have these very specific skills that we have developed through our life, through business, through just sheer grit of needing to learn certain skills to get through so many things and to progress the way that we've wanted to. And we've come to a point in our lives where we want to do more and we're ready to do more. And we're just not being as effective in the careers that we were having. And so we took a giant leap to live into these values, to get into business together. And we've created this digital marketing agency that we couldn't be more excited about. And
Yes.
we're bringing our 30 plus years combined skills in nonprofit work and in the corporate world as influencers and brand coaches, and bringing all of that together because we want to see the do-gooders win. Like,
Yes.
we want to see them win.
Yes.
You know? Yeah, like we're so tired of seeing so many underdogs just not make it because they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the connections that they needed. And like Michelle and I are at this point in our lives and in our skills where we were hitting the tops of the ceilings, and we weren't going any further, and we weren't making the impact that we wanted to. And we're like, hey, let's do something crazy. Let's do something bold. And the thing is when your best friend is your partner and it's been your hype person your whole life, you know, you can get into trouble because we believe in each other fiercely. You know, sometimes that ends up in a boat ride that you shouldn't be going on and flinging your legs and being too young. But
I don't know about not, you know, that you shouldn't be going on it. I will maybe agree with the point that there's a concern that it could be an echo chamber. But sometimes there's, you know, it's really good to have an echo chamber of encouragement and friendship, and somebody who believes in you, and somebody who understands your intention in every move. You know, somebody you can call and just tell them that you had a bad day and somebody misunderstood something, and you know, have your friend go, well, you didn't mean it like that. You don't even have to explain that part because you have somebody there who understands. And if you don't have one of those, you need just make sure you're showing up for our podcast, because we are definitely that for everybody that we end up championing and being friends with. So we've got a bunch of those on the outside of this relationship too, I promise.
So let us be your hype ladies. Let us be your loudmouth change makers. We are here for it, and we want to help you guys drive your causes forward. We want to help you hit those finish lines. So reach out to us if you have a cause, if you have a nonprofit or for-profit business, or if you're a social enterprise and you're needing help with your social media, if you want to get into influencer advertising, anything like that with content marketing, we are your girls for. We're not going to let you down, and we're going to shoot you to the moon. We're very excited about that. And if you're here and you don't have one of those things and you're just a do-gooder, there's so much good stuff for you too. We're going to be talking about, we want to connect with the individual person who wants to make a difference in this world. So before we wrap up, I think that's good for us. We talked about all the things on my list I'm checking off here. This is how you do podcasts, right?
Right.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this. And we are going to be featuring a nonprofit every month. And so if you're a nonprofit, please leave a comment, leave a review, email us, tell us about your nonprofit, what you're doing, and we're going to be happy to feature you. We hope to feature someone every month and just continue growing that. Before we sign off, we have a little goodie for you, and I want to leave you with a little affirmation. Affirmations are so powerful. And I really, really have been blessed by discovering affirmations this year in my life. And what's really cool about affirmations and saying them out loud is that your brain actually doesn't know the difference between the words you say out loud to yourself and the internal monologue that you're saying to yourself every day. So say good stuff to yourself. So this week's affirmation is, I trust that I have the skills, talents, and abilities within me to serve my life's purpose. Trust yourselves, lean into your values. If you really want to take advantage of this affirmation, there's 3 ways to kind of really help you internalize it this week. And that's incorporate it in your meditation. Try looking in the mirror as you say this affirmation, or try putting it on some Post-it notes and hide it all around the house. So it surprises you with your affirmation and keeps it at the forefront of your mind.
And we will have that affirmation in the show notes on our website. So don't rewind and try and write it down. I swear you can go to the website and just pick it up right there.
Thank you for joining us for our first ever podcast. We hope that we have a lot more for you. It's time to sign off, but I want you to remember every small act of courage, no matter how small, is not actually small at all. You, my dear, are standing among the Lionhearts.
Yes.